All right, so today we're going deep into a story
Okay.
that's well, it's incredibly tough,
Mhm.
but it's also really revealing about, you know,
Yeah.
the systems we live with.
Right.
We're going to kind of unpack the experience of Suleyman Sayın,
Okay.
who's a father who faced just incredible challenges
Right.
caring for his terminally ill son.
Wow.
And our main source for this is a YouTube video from the Conscience Foundation.
I see.
And this is a human rights organization
Okay.
founded by Ömer Faruk Gergerlioğlu.
Hmm.
And they're really all about giving a voice to those who are often unheard.
Right.
And Suleyman's story is just such
Yeah.
a powerful example
Yeah.
of why that work is so important.
Absolutely. And what's so compelling about this story is that it isn't just, a personal tragedy.
Okay.
It raises really critical questions about the Turkish legal and healthcare systems
Yeah.
and how they impact families in crisis.
Exactly. It's not just a sad story.
Right.
It's a deep dive into how personal hardship.
Can be made so much worse by systemic failures.
Right.
And the video that we're looking at is from an event called
Mhm.
Vicdan, Buluşmaları Babalar Günü. Acılar ve umutların paylaşıldığı anlar,
Okay.
which translates to Father's Day Gathering,
Mm-hmm.
moments of shared pain and hope, held on June 8th, 2024.
Okay.
And Suleyman was one of many fathers who
Wow.
gravely shared their experiences there.
That's great.
Now, Suleyman's story starts with some pretty serious hardship,
Okay.
even before his son's illness.
Right.
He had to relocate from Istanbul,
I see.
faced periods of unemployment,
Yeah.
was already struggling to provide for his family.
And this is really, I think, where we see how intertwined the social and economic factors are with individual struggles. He was already facing an uphill battle trying to make ends meet.
Right.
And then the situation becomes even more complex
Yeah.
when we factor in his wife's imprisonment during this period.
Yeah, and it makes you think, this isn't just about one family's tragedy.
Right. It's reflecting a wider reality
Absolutely.
for many families in similar circumstances.
Yeah.
And it raises the question, how did the specific circumstances of the mother's imprisonment
Right.
make things even harder for Suleyman?
Yeah.
Were there alternative sentencing options in the Turkish legal system that could have kept the family intact
Right.
while still addressing the legal issues?
Right, because this wasn't just an absent parent.
Right.
It was an absent parent at the worst possible time.
Exactly.
And I think understanding the nuances of the Turkish legal system is key here.
Yeah.
While we don't have all the details about her case from this video,
Right.
it's clear that her imprisonment had a cascading effect.
Yeah.
Suleyman was suddenly thrust into the roles of both caregiver and sole provider,
Right.
all while dealing with the emotional strain of his wife's absence.
Yeah.
This situation, sadly, is not unique to Suleyman.
Right.
Think about the broader impact of incarceration on families,
Mm-hmm.
particularly when a primary caregiver is imprisoned.
Yeah.
What support systems exist,
Right.
and are they truly adequate?
Right.
These are questions that Suleyman's story forces us to confront.
Yeah. It's a stark reminder that the justice system
Right.
doesn't operate in a vacuum.
Absolutely.
It has real-world consequences for families, especially children.
Yeah.
And then comes another blow.
Right.
Their son, Yusuf Kerim,
Mm-hmm.
is diagnosed with an aggressive form of cancer.
Wow.
And this diagnosis throws their lives into complete turmoil.
Here, the impact of the mother's imprisonment becomes even more critical.
Right.
Suleyman had to navigate a complex healthcare system,
Yeah.
advocate for his son's needs,
Mm-hmm.
all while shouldering the burden of his wife's legal situation
Yeah.
and the crushing reality of his son's diagnosis.
It makes you wonder, about the specific hurdles that he faced
Right.
within the Turkish healthcare system.
Yeah.
Was it a lack of financial resources,
Yeah.
bureaucratic roadblocks,
Yeah.
or difficulty accessing information? These details would offer valuable context
Absolutely.
for understanding the magnitude of the challenges he faced.
No.
And of course, let's not forget the impact on little Yusuf Karim.
Right.
Not only was he battling this terrifying illness,
Yeah.
but he was separated from his mother
Right.
and struggling to understand her absence.
Yeah.
That emotional toll on a child is just heartbreaking.
It's a stark illustration of how interconnected these issues can be.
Yeah.
Poverty, legal troubles, healthcare struggles, they often create this vicious cycle,
Yeah.
making it almost impossible for families to get ahead.
It's true.
And in many ways, Suleyman's story exemplifies this larger problem. It begs the question, are we doing enough
Right.
to address these systemic failures
Right.
that trap families in such dire circumstances.
Yeah, it really underscores the need for a more holistic approach,
Absolutely.
one that considers the interconnected nature of these challenges
Yeah.
and offers more comprehensive support
Right.
to families facing similar crises.
So Suleyman describes having to constantly move,
Yeah.
taking on odd jobs just to make ends meet,
Mm-hmm.
even being forced to live separately from his wife and son at times due to financial constraints.
Yeah,
This paints a really bleak picture
it
of the
does.
systemic hurdles they were up against.
Yeah.
And it's worth noting that all of this unfolds against the backdrop of his wife's legal case.
Right.
The specific charges aren't detailed in the video,
Right.
but it's evident her situation severely limited their options
Yeah.
and added immense stress.
And then Yusuf Karim's diagnosis hits.
Yeah.
And the timing couldn't have been worse,
Right.
adding another layer of complexity to an already overwhelming situation.
It's unimaginable.
Suleyman describes Yusuf Karim as this active, energetic child
Mm-hmm.
who suddenly became very ill,
Oh.
and it turned out to be cancer.
Oh, my God.
And it was spreading rapidly
Uh-huh.
throughout his little body.
And this is where Suleyman's role as a single parent, it becomes even more crucial, even more overwhelming.
Right.
Think about the weight of that responsibility.
Yeah.
He's now solely responsible for his son's medical care,
Right.
his emotional well-being, and everything else that comes with raising a child, all while grappling with his wife's imprisonment.
Yeah.
It's an almost impossible situation.
Suleyman speaks about the frantic rush to the hospital, the initial biopsies and tests, the agonizing wait for results,
Right.
and the devastating realization of just how serious the situation was.
Wow.
It's gut-wrenching to imagine that moment when the doctor delivers the news and he's alone,
Right.
bearing that weight without his partner by his side.
And all of this while navigating the complexities of the Turkish legal system,
Right.
trying to understand the charges against his wife, visiting her in prison,
Yeah.
figuring out how to care for his son while she's incarcerated.
Right.
It's a level of stress and uncertainty that most of us can't even begin to fathom.
Desperate for help, Suleyman reaches out to Ömer Faruk Gergerlioğlu,
Okay.
who's known for his human rights advocacy.
Right.
He explains his situation, the impossible choice that he's facing.
Mm.
If his wife is taken away,
Yeah.
he'll be left to care for his dying son completely alone.
So Gergerlioğlu, recognizing the injustice
Right.
and the urgent need for compassion in this case, steps in to support the family.
That's incredible.
He uses his platform to advocate for their rights,
Wow.
to raise awareness about their situation, and crucially, to secure temporary releases for Suleyman's wife,
Wow.
so she could be with her son during his treatment.
That's amazing.
And his actions, I think, highlight the critical role of advocates in navigating these complex systems
Right.
and fighting for the rights of those who are often marginalized and overlooked.
It's truly inspiring to see someone like Gergerlioğlu step up and make a tangible difference in their lives. Right.
However, even with his support, the system still presented significant obstacles
Right.
for Suleyman and his family.
Of course.
He describes bureaucratic hurdles, the constant back and forth between the hospital and the prison,
Yeah.
the emotional strain of trying to shield Yusuf Kerim
Right.
from the truth of his mother's situation.
It really highlights the limitations of our current systems and the lack of support for families facing similar circumstances.
It's true.
Imagine trying to focus on your child's medical needs, manage their pain, and provide emotional support while also dealing with the emotional weight of your spouse's imprisonment and the constant worry about their well-being. It's an unimaginable burden.
And then there's the added emotional toll of trying to protect Yusuf Karim from the harsh reality of his mother's imprisonment. Suleyman creates this narrative that she's being treated at a different hospital.
Attempting to maintain a sense of normalcy for his son.
Yeah.
But as we know, the truth has a way of surfacing.
Right.
And for Yusuf Karim, that moment of discovery was devastating.
He realized his mother wasn't at another hospital, but in prison.
Right.
The heartbreak of that realization on top of everything else he was going through
It's unimaginable.
just adds another layer of tragedy
Yeah.
to this already incredibly difficult situation.
It's true.
It underscores the ripple effects of incarceration and the lasting impact it has on children and families.
This is where Suleyman shares this incredibly powerful anecdote
Okay.
that speaks volumes about his dedication as a father.
Mhm.
As Yusuf Kerim's illness progressed, he began to lose control of his bodily function.
I see.
Suleyman recounts having to change his son's soiled clothes in the car.
Oh, wow.
Because he couldn't wait.
That detail, as difficult as it is to hear, really stuck with me.
Yeah.
It speaks to the raw, unfiltered reality of what Suleyman was going through.
Right.
It goes beyond the clinical diagnoses and treatment plans.
Yeah.
It's a visceral reminder of the immense physical and emotional toll that caregivers endure day in and day out while processing their own grief and the complexities of the situation.
This is what makes Suleyman's story so compelling.
Right.
It humanizes the experience of caregiving.
Absolutely.
It forces us to look beyond the statistics and acknowledge the sacrifices made by those who dedicate themselves to caring for loved ones in need.
It also raises important questions about the support systems that should be in place.
Right.
Are we providing adequate resources and understanding to those who are caring for loved ones with serious illnesses?
Yeah.
Particularly when compounded by stressors like incarceration.
Right.
This is a conversation we need to be having, not just in Turkey, but globally.
It's a call to action, a plea for greater compassion and understanding.
Right.
For those who are often invisible in our society.
Yeah.
The caregivers, the families struggling behind closed doors.
And then amidst all of this, there's the emotional toll on Yusuf Karim himself.
Right.
As his illness advanced, the pain intensified, and he reached a point of utter desperation.
This is where it gets truly heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Suleyman describes his son pleading with him and his mother,
Oh, wow.
Beni Uldurun, which means, kill me.
Oh, my gosh.
To hear your own child in the depths of their suffering plead for death to escape their pain. It's a level of despair that's almost impossible to comprehend.
It's a stark reminder of the profound suffering that he endured and the complex ethical and emotional dilemmas that families face when dealing with terminal illness.
Yeah.
How do you balance a child's desire for relief from suffering with the innate parental instinct to fight for their life?
It's an impossible choice.
It's a question with no easy answers.
Yeah. This moment, I think, highlights the raw humanity of Suleyman's story. It's easy to get caught up in the logistical and medical aspects of these situations.
Right.
But Suleyman brings the human element to the forefront.
Yeah.
It's a visceral reminder that there are real people behind these diagnoses.
Absolutely.
Real families grappling with unimaginable pain and loss.
It's a powerful story.
It is.
And it's one that I think we all need to hear.
I agree.
And it forces us to confront, those uncomfortable realities of illness and loss and, the limitations of our support systems.
Yeah.
We have to remember that behind the statistics and the medical terminology, there are individuals and families enduring unimaginable pain.
It's true.
And it's a powerful call, I think, for greater compassion.
Right.
A more humane approach to care.
Yeah. And tragically, the story takes an even darker turn as we approach Yusuf Karim's final moments.
His death is both heart-wrenching and shrouded in a degree of mystery. Suleyman recounts that just before passing, Yusuf Karim spoke of something being stuck in his throat.
Oh, wow.
Making it difficult to breathe.
This detail, as chilling as it is, raises so many questions.
Yeah.
Were there complications that could have been addressed? Was there something more going on that wasn't fully understood at the time?
Yeah.
It adds another layer of complexity to Suleyman's grief.
Absolutely.
He's not only mourning the loss of his son, but grappling with these unanswered questions and the what-ifs surrounding those final moments.
It makes you think about the lack of closure he must feel.
Yeah.
The added burden of uncertainty on top of his profound grief.
And as if the situation couldn't get any worse, fate deals another cruel blow.
Okay.
Suleyman's wife is taken back into custody.
Oh, wow.
Shortly after Yusuf Karim's death.
This is where the systemic insensitivity toward families in these situations becomes painfully clear.
It does.
She's denied the opportunity to properly mourn the loss of her son.
Taken back into the prison system at the very moment they needed each other the most.
Exactly.
It's a stark reminder of how easily the needs of individuals and families can be overlooked within these rigid systems.
And this raises the question, what are the protocols for compassionate release in these situations?
Yeah.
Are there provisions within the Turkish legal system that allow for a mother to grieve the loss of her child,
right,
to be present for her family during a time of such profound need.
It seems the answer, at least in Suleyman's case, is a resounding no.
Right.
And that's incredibly disheartening.
Suleyman talks about the devastating impact this had on his wife.
Mm-hmm.
She's still grappling with the trauma of losing her son, compounded by the harsh reality of being incarcerated during that period of immense grief.
It's awful.
He mentions that she relies on medication
to
cope with the emotional pain.
That's tough.
Which speaks volumes about the depth of her suffering.
Right. And the lack of adequate support available to her.
It underscores the lasting repercussions of incarceration, not just on the individual, but on their families as well.
Yeah.
They were denied the chance to grieve together, to support each other during a time when they needed it most.
Exactly.
Instead, the system further separated them, adding yet another layer of trauma to an already unbearable situation.
And, of course, we can't forget Suleyman's own struggle with grief and loss.
Of course.
He speaks so candidly about experiencing suicidal thoughts.
Oh, wow.
The crushing weight of despair.
It's heavy.
And the profound isolation that can accompany such a profound loss.
It's so isolating.
It's a raw and honest confession that reveals the devastating impact of these events on his mental and emotional well-being.
It's a reminder that mental health support is critical
for
those who've experienced trauma and loss.
Yeah.
Particularly when entangled with the legal and healthcare system.
Right.
These systems often fail to adequately address the emotional and psychological needs of individuals and families.
It's true.
They're just not equipped for that.
But amidst the darkness, Suleyman's story also offers a glimmer of hope.
Okay.
He emphasizes the importance of finding support, sharing his story, and connecting with others who have endured similar pain.
It's so important.
This is where the power of community and the potential for healing through shared experience really shine through.
This resonated deeply with me.
Yeah.
It speaks to the profound impact of human connection.
Right.
Of knowing you're not alone in your suffering.
Yeah.
Sharing your story, as painful as it may be, can be incredibly cathartic. It allows you to process your grief, to find meaning in your experience, and to connect with others who understand your pain in a way that others simply can't.
By sharing his story, Suleyman is not only seeking solace for himself, but offering a lifeline to others who might be battling similar challenges. He's transforming his personal tragedy into a source of strength and hope for others.
It's amazing.
And this brings us back to the Conscience Foundation and their crucial mission to amplify unheard voices. By providing a platform for Suleyman to share his experience, they're not only honoring his son's memory, but raising awareness about the broader social issues intertwined with his personal tragedy.
This is where individual stories become catalysts for systemic change. It's about shining a light on the failings of the legal and healthcare systems, advocating for prison reform, improved access to healthcare, and more robust support systems for families in crisis. Suleyman's story is not an isolated incident. It's a microcosm of larger societal issues that demand attention and action.
So let's talk about the listener for a second.
Okay.
Why should you care about Suleyman's story? It's easy to dismiss these kinds of stories as isolated incidents, tragedies that happen to other people. But the reality is these issues are deeply interconnected and impact us all in some way. We all know someone who's been touched by the justice system, by the healthcare system, by grief and loss. These are not isolated experiences. They're woven into the fabric of our society.
And even if we haven't personally experienced these challenges firsthand, it's crucial to cultivate empathy and understanding.
I agree.
Suleyman's story is a powerful call to action. A reminder that we need to be advocating for more just and compassionate systems that support families, not tear them apart.
It's about understanding the interconnectedness of these issues. Prison reform isn't just about criminal justice. It's about families, healthcare, social equity. Absolutely. Access to healthcare isn't just about medical treatment. It's about providing support and resources to families who are grappling with the emotional and financial burdens of illness.
We need to shift our perspective. to see the human faces behind these complex systems and ask ourselves, are we doing enough to support those who are hurting? Are we actively working to create a world where families like Suleyman's can find compassion, support, and the resources they desperately need to navigate these challenging times?
It's about putting ourselves in their shoes.
Right.
It's time to move beyond passive sympathy.
Absolutely.
And engage in meaningful action.
And this is where the power of individual stories comes in.
Yeah.
Suleyman's story is not only a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, but a powerful indictment of the systems that failed him and his family.
Exactly.
By sharing his experience, he's inviting us to be part of a larger conversation about how we can create a more just and compassionate world.
Now, as we wrap up our deep dive into Suleyman's story, I'd love to hear your reflections.
Sure.
What are the key takeaways that resonated with you? What aspects of his experience sparked your curiosity or left you wanting to know more?
Well, for me, the overarching theme that emerges is the profound impact of systemic failures.
Yeah.
Suleyman's story really vividly illustrates how the legal and healthcare systems, often in conjunction with social and economic factors, can create a perfect storm of hardship for families.
Yes. That's a crucial point. It's not just about individual misfortune. It's about recognizing the systemic issues that contribute to and exacerbate those challenges.
Exactly. And within that framework, several key takeaways emerge. First, the ripple effects of incarceration are far-reaching and deeply damaging.
It's true.
It's not just about the individual who's imprisoned. It's about the families and communities that are impacted by their absence.
We see this so clearly in Suleyman's story, how his wife's imprisonment created this cascade of challenges from financial strain and emotional distress to the heartbreaking separation from their son during his illness and ultimately even in his death.
Precisely, it highlights the urgent need for prison reform that prioritizes rehabilitation, family support, and alternative sentencing options that minimize the disruption to family units whenever possible.
And then there's the healthcare system, which, as Suleyman's story demonstrates, can be just as daunting and difficult to navigate as the legal system. He speaks about the bureaucratic hurdles, the financial strain, and the emotional toll of advocating for his son's needs while simultaneously dealing with his wife's legal situation.
It's a lot.
It's a stark reminder of the barriers to accessing quality health care that so many families face, not just in Turkey, but globally.
This raises crucial questions about healthcare equity and accessibility. Are we doing enough to ensure that everyone has access to quality, affordable health care? Are we providing adequate support and resources to families who are struggling with the financial and emotional burdens of serious illnesses?
That's true.
Suleyman's story forces us to confront these uncomfortable truths.
And it also makes you think, about the support systems in place for caregivers. Are we providing them with the resources and understanding they need to navigate these incredibly challenging situations?
It's so important.
Suleyman's experience caring for his son, while heartbreaking, also showcases the immense strength and resilience of caregivers who often go unrecognized and unsupported.
And finally, I think we can't overlook the importance of compassion and empathy. Suleyman's story is this stark reminder of the human cost of these complex social issues.
It's true.
It challenges us to look beyond the statistics
right.
and the policy debates and recognize the individuals and families who are hurting.
He talks about that profound isolation that he felt, his struggle with grief and loss, the importance of finding support and connection.
It's so critical.
It highlights the critical role of human connection in healing and resilience.
It emphasizes the need, I think, for communities and support systems that can provide a safe space for individuals and families to process their grief, share their experiences, and find solace in knowing they're not alone.
Right.
And this is where organizations like the Conscience Foundation play such a vital role.
They do.
By providing a platform for these voices to be heard and by advocating for systemic change.
So as we conclude this deep dive into Suleyman's story, I am left with this profound sense of responsibility. What can we as individuals, as a society, do to prevent other families from enduring similar tragedies?
Yeah. What concrete steps can we take to create a more just and compassionate world where families like Suleyman's have access to the support and resources they need?
It starts with awareness.
Absolutely.
With recognizing that interconnectedness of these issues and understanding how our actions or inaction can perpetuate these systemic injustices.
It's about engaging in meaningful conversations, advocating for policy changes, supporting organizations that are working on the ground to address these challenges.
It's about challenging our own biases and assumptions.
Absolutely.
Listening to and amplifying the voices of those who are often marginalized and overlooked.
It's about demanding better from our leaders and holding them accountable for creating systems that prioritize human dignity, compassion, and equity.
And it's about understanding that these aren't just Turkish issues. These are global challenges that require a collective effort to
address. It's a global issue.
We can't afford to turn a blind eye to the suffering of others.
To dismiss these stories as isolated incidents. Suleyman's story is a powerful reminder that we are all interconnected.
We are.
And that we have this shared responsibility to create a world where every individual, every family has the opportunity to thrive.
His story, as difficult as it is to hear, is a call to action.
It is.
A challenge to examine our own beliefs and behaviors and to commit ourselves to working towards a more just and compassionate world.
It's a powerful message.
It is.
Well, thank you for joining me on this incredibly moving and thought-provoking deep dive.
Thank you for having me.
I think Suleyman's story is one that will stay with us.
It will.
And it's a story that I believe has the power to inspire change.
Absolutely.
If you're interested in learning more about the Conscience Foundation and the work they do, you can find a link to their website in the show notes.
All right.
Until next time.
Okay.